colder, you know. Sometimes everything just gets hard. Sometimes everything just gets harder. Feeling like I'm missing some parts. Days just keep on getting much darker. Even when I'm down in the lower, I remember what you would say to me. Drowning in what feels just like an ocean. Negativity is getting closer. Hard to keep the heat when it gets colder, you know. Sometimes everything just gets hard. Sometimes everything just gets harder. Feeling like I'm missing some parts. Days just keep on getting much darker. Even when I'm down in the lower, I remember what you would say.
I keep doing that, don't I? Positive affirmations, good evening, good afternoon, good morning. And I always keep telling myself to always make sure that I turn my phones off. And so let me do that now. Okay. How are you all doing out there in beautiful around the world? Whoever's picking up this interview today, I've got the wonderful LEXI DUBERRY, who is waiting in the wings. And she's just had a day and a half, she said. So I had to make sure that she breathe and get herself composed before we actually came online. So before I actually start, as I said, always positive affirmations to all you gorgeous, wonderful people out there. And I'm doing all of this because every week I keep doing this with this flaming light, and I am going to throw it out the window way. But it was a beautiful day, beautiful sunshine. So I'm going to make sure, pretend I'm in the tropics, because that's how I feel. I feel good. I feel really good. And I hope that all of you out there feel good too. Again, positive affirmations. Now, before my guest join me, people might be asking, who is LEXI DUBERRY? Well, I can let her do that for herself. And as you know, on my show, Standing in My Truth, we have a wide variation of people from all walks of life, from all diversity, inclusivity. No one is exempt from Standing in My Truth. It's where people who have unsung heroes who are making changes out there in the universe that we probably would never have recognized, if we don't see them on the BBC or Channel 4 or Sky. But there are people out there who are championing and doing the most amazing things out there. I hope everyone can hear me because I just realized I'm a bit far away from my microphone. So I'll check into the chat room very shortly to see how we're all doing. LEXI DUBERRY, who is LEXI? Good evening, Natasha, and to everybody else that's going to join us in the chat room today. I hope all is well. Again, who is LEXI DUBERRY? LEXI is gorgeous. When I first spoke to her, I felt my spiritual side literally leapt out of the phone onto the pages of our emails, just to meet this wonderful young lady. LEXI is an ex-footballer, used to play for the Arsenal ladies and Leyton Orient. She's an FA coach. She's also a youth advocate and an ambassador for Kickoff at 3. But there's so many. And did I tell you she's also a referee, football referee? Now, how many female football referees are we going to get? Now, I'm going to stop and bring in the wonderful young lady herself. She's had a journey, and I want her story to be told. It's not all about sports. It's all about her. And without further ado, I'm going to bring in the beautiful LEXI DUBERRY.
Hi.
How are you? Blessings.
Blessings back. How are you?
Oh my God. And you still got the audacity to wear the Arsenal top, yeah?
I mean, Rogside, I had to come and represent today.
Oh my God. She actually had to wear the Arsenal top. You know what? I think I'm about to just throw this off and put on my Tottenham shirt. No, that is just like a disgrace. No, I'm only joking. Good evening, LEXI. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. As you said in the intro, it's been a stressful day in a sense, but I've seen it through. God is good, and I'm here today and excited to converse with you.
Totally. As I said to everybody else, I know you've had a bit of a day, and I hope you don't mind me sharing this with some people. From your day started where you got up to go to work, you slammed your finger in the car door, you then end up getting a parking ticket. You've had this, I won't tell everybody that what you do now. I let them tell that, but I tell you what we're going to do. We're just going to go. That's right. Because now I'm going to kick back. I'm going to make myself comfortable. And to everybody else out there, this is where you're going to sit back and listen to the wonderful Lexi's story. Lexi, please introduce yourself to the community out there and where you actually come from. Give us a brief synopsis.
Okay.
Over to you.
Well, good evening, all. Thank you for tuning in and letting me share my story. Thank you to Valerie, first and foremost, and Kickoff at 3 for creating the link between us to share this night tonight. Where do I start? Right. So I'll take it back to the beginning. As Valerie said, I'm a retired youth professional footballer playing for the likes of Leyton Orient and Arsenal. I started playing football at the age of about 7 or 8, where my talent was actually identified by one of my uncles. Initially, I was in singing and dance, but invited me to a game in which my cousin, who's the same age, was also playing in, and he invited me down. It was a boys' game.
You were singing and dancing first?
I mean,
let's forget about it. Yeah, I tell you what, we're going to park the football bit for a second. So I'm going to guide you here because now I'm like, whoa, okay, singing and dancing. So you were singing and dancing from what age?
So my mum put me in singing and dancing. I think I was about 6 when I started.
Okay.
I was doing tap, modern, and jazz with a bit of street dance. And obviously the singing on top. But
oh my God, you can sing as well.
I can hold a melody now. I don't know really about the singing part, but
you can hold a melody, not even the note, but a melody.
A melody, just the little,
just make sure that voice of yours is going to be a bit silky because you may never know. I might even ask you to just do a hook or something.
Whoa.
So here you are. You were doing a bit of tap dance modern. Is that what you wanted to do, or is that a choice of your parent?
I think at the time I was quite a energetic child. I used to play football with my cousins, but back then we're talking probably I'm 26 now, so we're talking nearly 20 years ago. And at that time, women's football wasn't what it was. So it was just getting me into something that would allow me to express myself. And my mum and I, we wasn't aware of the female football teams or an avenue for young female footballers. So that's probably the reason why we more stemmed in the singing and dancing avenue.
Okay. So here you are, you're thinking to yourself, well, this is what I'm going to do, because as you said, football wasn't very prominent, especially for females. But then you said that your uncle, you persevered. So you still did the singing, but you were still playing football. Is that correct?
Yeah, so I did. So I was in singing and dancing for probably a year or two, done a few shows and so forth. And then, as I said, my uncle invited me down to one of my cousin's games. And then the singing and dancing pretty much went out the window from there. So, yeah, that was probably the finding of my football talent.
But again, you keep saying your cousin and your uncle, your cousin and your uncle. You might as well just tell everybody who your bleeding cousin and your uncle is. So, let's just stop them going, okay, cousin, uncle. I know, I don't need to use that. But go on, let's just tell everybody who he is.
All right, so the cousin and uncle I'm talking about now, big up Uncle Tony and my cousin Dion A for the first platform I got to perform. But what Valerie's getting onto is my cousin is Michael DeBerry. Used to play for Chelsea and Leeds, so I put that out there.
Sorry, Michael. I'm only booing Chelsea. The Leeds I can live with, but the Chelsea, do you know what I mean? Yes, Michael Duberry, awesome footballer. You know, he knows like Paul Cannonville, etc., etc. But we won't go into that. So that's who your cousin is, and that's where your platform started, and you were then picked up. Take away your story. Well, let me ask you this question as well. Where do your family originate from? Where are you born?
Okay, so I grew up in East London. I was born in Goodmayes Hospital and reside in the like borderline East London, Essex area. Currently in
Okay,
Redbridge.
Ilford. Yeah,
Guildford,
yeah.
yeah. But my family grew up in North London, hence the little Arsenal
Okay,
thing.
I have not eaten yet, so I don't want to start feeling sick. Sorry, I might start having a bit of a headache. But okay.
Yeah, so my family grew up in Islington area, hence the reason why we're very strong Arsenal supporters. So about that.
And they just got them down the road. So okay, we won't. Sorry, folks, we won't keep going on about that. So that's
The
where you
range.
originate. So your platform. So you went in school. When you was at school, did they allow you to play football as a female? Was that something that was allowed?
So initially, at the time, again, women's football wasn't what it is today. So when I did play football, I represented the boys' teams. So I think when I was in primary school, I got selected for district, which is your local borough. However, in the latter years of primary school, I moved schools. So I was initially in Barking, and I moved to Redbridge. And when I moved schools, the first thing I asked about was a football team. And that's so I played, it was a mixed team, and we featured in it's called a mini games, whereby you play against other boroughs and so forth. And that's when I was scouted by Leyton Orient, and it pretty much went from there.
I have to say, Leighton Orient, no disrespect, is, and I did say this I had Kevin Lisby on a few weeks back, and you always find that no matter what team you support, you always have a second team. And Leighton
Mm.
Orient, me being an East End girl, is my second team. So they're one of the first teams, a bar when I don't look out for Tottenham, that I look out for next. Do you know what I mean? And it
Yeah.
sounds like I keep going on about Spurs through this whole flipping.
You're just trying to get out there. You should have put your shirt on for real. Clash of the
If I take
Titans.
a break and I come back, you know what I've got to do. And I'm a little business. But so yeah, okay. So there you are, and as you said, you played for a mixed team. Take me on the journey now from here on playing the mixed team.
So forgive me because I got to go back a couple of years in the memory log. But yeah, so as I said, I started with the match I played with my cousin. I won a corner. So I got brought on in the match at the later stages. I won a corner, and all the guys were like, "Yeah, I'm gonna take it. I'm gonna take it." I'm like, "Nah, I'm taking it. I won it. I'm gonna take it." And I actually managed to convert the corner into a goal. Like I scored from the corner, and everyone just went. I mean, no, I'm joking.
Yeah.
I'm only playing. But everyone went crazy from there. So my uncle was pushing my mum, say, "You know what? Your daughter's a baller. You got to get her into football." So after that, that's when I went to the mixed team and got scouted by Leyton Orient. And I used to train twice a week and play matches on a Saturday. At that time, Leyton Orient, the women's youth team, the female youth team, they competed with the likes of Arsenal, Chelsea, your top teams. We were like top of one of the top clubs, for our age group at the time. So I played for Leyton Orient for 4 years, from the age of 11 to 15. And again, in the later stages, I was called up to play for the older team. So I used to captain the under 14s, but I was asked to play up for the under 16s. And
Okay.
in that game is where I suffered an injury. I was taken out by one of the ladies I was playing against, and it resulted in me fracturing my kneecap
Oh
and having a
God.
floating bone in my knee, um, and yeah, so forth. But I'll get on to the injury stuff a bit later. So having recovered from my injury, which because of my age at the time, they said my body was still developing. So I think it took me a couple of months to get back to it. And then the following year, Leighton Orient actually went into administration.
Oh, you're
So
joking.
yeah, it did. And we had a really good team at the time. We was doing a lot for the club and um, the the um, the achievements we were getting as a team. It was doing a lot for Leighton Orient and so forth. But
Especially
yes,
being female as well, right?
definitely, definitely. And I think it sort of knocked us for six a bit. But I was able to get picked up by both Arsenal and Chelsea. They were both interested, of which I secured a place at both. At this time, it was college and football. Due to Chelsea being so far and the lack of academic selection that they offered, I went for the choice of Arsenal, as well as, of course, being a Gooner. Um, and yeah, I played for Arsenal about a year and a half, and I then went on to re-rupture the
Oh
initial injury I
no.
had, which unfortunately led to me being released from the team as I was making the transition from the youth to the first team. So yeah,
Oh
so
God.
went a
And
bit
so
left
that
from there.
literally that stopped the career completely.
Yeah, so getting on to my injury. So in the space of 18 months, I suffered arterial ligament tear to both knees. Initially my right, followed by my left. As I said, I was at Arsenal at the time, and because of how good Arsenal women's team were, they had access to players from all over the country and in fact abroad as well. So obviously not being able to play at my full capacity, I wasn't selected at the trial because I was playing with an injury, and I was released from the club. The only benefit that came out of it was the fact that the physio at Arsenal at the time, she was able to write to the NHS, which granted my surgery, because I think if that hadn't taken place, then I'd be in a much worse situation than I am in today.
And she was able to, as you said, secure the, because if you didn't have that operation, what would have been the actual end, the final decision? What would you say that would have been?
Well, they were reluctant to give me scans. MRI scans are £5,000. Well, were £5,000 at the time per scan. I think I had three in total by the end of after everything, and I would have had Brock foot, to be honest. I would have just had a Brock foot. It's a struggle as it is now. So without that surgery, I don't know where I would have been. Thank God that
I had to, yeah, yeah.
something positive
Somebody would,
did come
yeah.
out of it.
So you had
Yeah.
the injury, you had the scan. The scan showed up. You needed the operation. You then had the operation. What was
Yeah.
the rehabilitation like after?
So this is where things sort of deteriorated again. So when I had my initial surgery, I had a keyhole surgery to start with, but they weren't able to do what they needed to do. So I then went on to have full ligament reconstruction, which they had to repair the ACL. So I had my hamstring tendon um, to be replaced, a replacement for my ligament. So currently in both knees, I have my hamstring tendons as artificial ligaments. Um, sorry, it's so overwhelming just
It's
trying to
okay.
remember what happened.
Breathe. Remember what I said to you. Breathe, and only
Breathe.
speak about what you feel calm with. As I said,
Yeah.
this is really all about you, and I'm wincing like I'm in pain because But take your time and tell your story. Just take your time.
Yeah. So when I initially ruptured my knee, as I said, I had a fractured kneecap, a floating bone in my knee, and I actually underwent 3 surgeries in one on both occasions. The cartilage, the ACL, and the meniscus were all ruptured at the same time. So, with regards to the question you asked, the rehab, I was released by Arsenal, so I had no support through the football avenues, professional football avenues. I was left to my own devices. I was on crutches for about 9 months, in which I had to learn to walk again. And then
With no one, there was no, when you say no support, no one reached out from the club, even though they let you go. And I'm talking about, you may have kept in touch with people from Leyton Orient or Arsenal. There was still, that support was not there.
yeah, I
And I'm
think
not trying, remember, I'm not trying to badmouth them. I just, yeah.
No, most definitely. As it says, standing my truth, and I'll forever keep it real. I think, like, at the time, my mum supported me the whole way. When I was playing for Arsenal, my mum was having to travel Southampton, Northampton, Luton, like off of her own petrol, no expenses whatsoever. And it's funny because one of the professional footballers today who plays for a Premier League side, he was under 8s at Chelsea at the time. And where my mum went to the hairdressers at the time, his mum always used to speak of, he gets picked up, he gets expenses, and all of these things, which as women, young women, we never received that. So with regards to the support, I had support from my family, but other to my family, we had no one. Even the hospitals, after I learned how to walk, I probably had about 6 to 8 weeks rehab. And then that was it. Like, Lexi was gone. Despite everything I did for Arsenal, the amount of potential and talent I had, it's like we were just numbers. And I think, I'm sure we'll get onto later, a lot of the youth of today are considered as just numbers. Hence the reason why when we get onto it, I do what I do in the sense of
Right.
professionalism, what I try and do
Professionalism,
in the
yeah.
community and so forth. Yeah.
Here you are learning to walk again, and the pain, medication, the painkillers, because you could have easily got so addicted to all of that.
Yeah, I can't remember the exact measurement, but I was on cocodamol with ibuprofen. So that just goes to show how painful it was. I think I had about 13 stitches in my knee. Of which
Not one, but both, right? Both.
So no, what I'm talking about right now was just the initial injury, the first leg. So after I went through all of this, no support, nothing, I came back, managed to get myself back into football. And then within 18 months, I did the other knee.
Oh,
yeah. I know. I know.
okay. I'm breathing. I'm breathing. Remember to breathe. We're
Yeah,
breathing. I'm breathing with you. I'm breathing with you. Lexi, you had 9-10 months out, and you went right back into football. And then how long did it take before your second knee went?
So it took, I think, so I had surgery in 2000. So because it's so long ago, all I remember is I had surgery in 2011 and I had surgery in 2013. So when I say 18 months, that was from the initial injury, the recovery, and then the little gap, which was probably 3 to 4 months potentially after I did the other knee, until I did the other knee, sorry.
How bad was that injury?
Exactly the same, if not worse. I went through exactly the same thing.
Excuse my French.
No worries. Yeah, exactly the same thing. Ruptured the ligament, the meniscus, the cartilage.
For those who don't know what the meniscus is, tell us.
But I couldn't even tell you.
We're not trying to be stupid, but your cartilage, everyone knows the cartilage. The meniscus is in the back of the kneecap, isn't it?
Yeah.
Get in, right. Val.
You know what I mean? I just know. Listen, from I got the injury, it was just so hard. I think at the time as well, only now I'm starting to digest how much of an effect it had on me. I think at that time, you just see, I'm injured, I'll get over it. But then a lot of the girls that I used to play with, they're first team players today. So when I look back on things, it just shows how much of an avenue there was, and if things were dealt with in such a way, in a sense of the support from the club, the support from the NHS and so forth. Even the thing is as well, I'm not even asking like for direct support, but being a big club, put me in the direction for someone that's going to support me, refer me to someone, whether I have to pay or not, that's a different story in itself. But just the guidance, because as I said, my mum was my only lead. I learned pretty much everything from my mum. My mum supported me. Other to that, we had no one. And for how much she done for me to be able to do for the club, it was just like 1 minute we're there, next minute we're gone.
Next you're gone.
Just like that. So
you've done the second knee. How long was that recovery?
So I think the second knee took me 13 months in total to recover. And to be honest, they're still not, even to today, they're still not fully recovered. So as I said, 2011, 2013, so 8 and 10 years, and I'm still facing issues. I've only just started rehab with my knees through a connection, big up Gel-Up Promotions, again connected.
And we're going to come to that because we spoke about that. So
yes.
let's keep feeding everybody.
No problem.
Feeding them. You've had this injury, and good, look, even if I wince when I hit my ankle, and I know how painful that is. So I can only imagine. I know that my mother's legs have gone, so I can only imagine. But you have gone one better to survive to life threatening, because you could not be walking. You could be with sticks right now, 2 walking sticks. But you've come through that. But people don't understand what you've had to go through to get there.
Yeah.
Knowing that after those 13 months, you didn't go back to play football, did you?
No. So tell a lie, I did go back, but I couldn't compete at the same level, and my knees just couldn't bear it would take me 4 to 5 days recovery. My knees would swell up straight after. I couldn't play the whole game. I struggled to walk up the stairs and so forth. So yeah, it was gonna do more damage me playing than me not playing. So I had to make the decision to call it a day, really.
Oh my God. When you called it a day, did you, in all this time, did you ever reach back out to Leyton Orient? And I'm going to keep saying this because it's something that, even though people are talking about it now, it seems like it's still happening. And did you reach out to them and say, this is what I'm going through? How did your mental well-being cope with all of this? Because you're saying your mum, and you've got to understand I'm sure people will understand, your mum must have been going, her well-being would have been, put at risk as well. It's just the two of you.
Yeah. I think, again, at the time, it's only now that I'm stepping into my purpose and I can fully understand what I went through mentally as well as physically, that I'm able to understand how much of an impact it did have on me. At the time, I didn't. It was just injured, like players get released. I was just one of the unlucky ones. But I think because of the age that I was like 17 to 19. So I was in my college years. And I think there was so much pressure from college, a young woman, career, because at that time as well, football, as much as it has improved, the avenue for women was very limited in the sense of financially supporting. So I always had a contingency or thought to have a contingency. However, I had scholarship offers, like America. I was going on certain trials and so forth, which over in the States, they pay much more and they support their women differently. But again, by this time, my knees were in a different different state and weren't able to endure what in an ideal situation it would.
Yeah. If you don't mind, do you mind sharing with us what the mental anguish was like in those dark days, trying to understand why you? Because I'm sure that's the question you asked yourself. Why me? How, did you basically, how did you see yourself? Where did you see yourself going? If you don't mind sharing those days, because I know they were dark days for you.
Definitely. So I think, again, only now I can look back and speak of the past. But if I put myself back into the time, I'm more able to tell you what I did do. So what happened to me is when I went to college, obviously my head was not in the right state. I struggled to focus in lessons, in which I ended up leaving college early. And my mindset solely became focused on money, and supporting myself, because other than football, I had no other passion or no other vision in what I really wanted to do. Football was solely my only passion, focus, and so forth. So it wasn't just losing football, it was losing a part of myself, it was losing my identity. And then I think going through college at the same stages where I'm having to try and get through and overcome these things, I just channeled my energy into other means. And I think where I grew up, the area and so forth, because of my football, I wasn't exposed to a lot of things in which the youngsters back then today are exposed to, in the sense of the ends, or like socializing, going out, parties, all of these things. And the age in which I was introduced to it, due to not being able to go and play football, it was much more common at that time. So I think where people had like a staggered introduction to socialization and early adulthood, I just went from being a young footballer, teenager, to now I'm an adult. And then the influences were very much, a lot of my friends and so forth came from different areas. So they'd grown up in being out on the streets, like chasing money and so forth. And I think because I didn't have that balance, I was very easily influenced, because my mind wasn't right at the time anyway. So I was very easily influenced into other avenues, which I then fell into. So I started to party a lot. As I said, my focus was on money. So I used to, when my friends used to go and link guys, I used to see guys pull up in certain cars and wear certain clothes. And I used to think, my mum's been working her arse off, excuse my French, for so many years. And don't get me wrong, we never went without. My mum done an impeccable job in raising my brother and I.
I'm bowing to mummy.
Big up, mummy. But
Yeah.
in the same breath, it was, again, I was exposed to a means of life in which I didn't know. So the whole illegitimacy of life, the criminality side of life, I wasn't aware of it. And I feel like because I was quite naive, I was gullible, I was lost, I thought I was doing things to benefit or enhance my situation, not realizing the criminality or illegitimacy that came with certain things and certain people I was engaging with. So it took a bad turn for about 3 to 4 years, really.
What was a turning point that you realized that you're not following your dream, which was football? You were mentally actually, depleting. What was a turning point for you?
Well, my family are Christians, so I've always had the Lord by my side, which again, only
Amen.
now I've realized how sometimes you go through avenues, like you have to go through the dark to see the light. And only now today, doing what I do, I'm able to say that a lot of things I went through, I had to go through them. I was meant to go through them, because had I not, a lot of the stuff that I do today, I wouldn't be able to do, because I grew up in a very, how can I put it, legitimate, well, I'm trying to find the right words for it, but a loving family. I don't know if correct's the right term, but well educated, like do everything right, so to
Yeah.
speak. But
Yeah.
then,
Yeah.
in a sense, it was sort of a sheltered upbringing, because I was so oblivious to the other side of life. And having dabbled in that world, I now got to see and understand, which contributes to what I'm doing today, in what certain kids go through, in a sense of parents being drug addicts, in the sense of growing up on the ends, in the sense of not having the support. And I was able to use my good upbringing with my introduction to another life, and find the balance to now be able to do what I do and speak on what I speak on.
So you finding those introductions, because you say you didn't just fall into it. How did you get to become? Because remember, you what people don't realize is you're also a referee. You're also an FA coach. So before we get all of that, did you acquire all of that when you had that turning point? When did you acquire all of that?
So what happened for me, with the illegitimacy part, I was so close to trouble that it was an eye opener. Obviously, I could see what it was doing to my mum in some respects, and it just wasn't me. I think, as I said, my mind wasn't in the right place. And as you get older, I guess you mature, and I came to my senses to realize this is not my portion. And in doing so, I focused more on my word. I was attending church more, and the Lord was speaking to me. And as I said, where I was chasing money, like I've worked, as much as I speak on illegitimate things I may have dabbled in, I worked for the council. I was a commercial manager in construction and so forth. But again, it was the money that was advertised.
You kept that quiet. Hold on a minute. So you studied. Hold on a minute. Hold on a second here. Listen, this is a
There's
special young
too
lady
much.
we're speaking here. Listen, a commercial manager. Do you know what it is to be a commercial manager in construction? I'm from the construction world,
Oh, is it? Okay.
right? Oh, come
Okay.
on now. My dad's in construction, my brother's in construction, I've worked in construction.
All
And
right.
but so I'm applauding you.
Thank you. But this is what
So
I'm saying, Valerie.
you
I
studied.
didn't.
So how did you get to be a commercial manager? Because that's
So
not easy.
this is what I'm saying. The Lord works in mysterious ways, because I made the conscious decision to step away from a lot of what I was in. I knew it wasn't my portion, and I was praying, speaking on it, asking for guidance, grounding, lead me, and so forth. And I've always like been independent, in the sense of I've been working since I was 17. Obviously, I still live at home. My mom still supports me, but I mean, in the sense of I get my own. And with regards to the jobs I got into, they came out of the blue. When I decided to make that change, things just started happening for me. I didn't. So the commercial manager, I was a trainee commercial manager, but I was managing sites. I was supervising sites with no form of qualification whatsoever.
Wow.
So how I came about that job, my initial industry I worked in was hospitality. I was working for the council at the time, but through an agency which wasn't giving me enough funds. So I decided to step back into hospitality as a part-time job. I got various offers. I'd been in the industry for a very long time. However, there was one job, as much as it wasn't paying much, but I thought, why not? Let's go. So I went to a trial shift in Canary Wharf, Jamie Oliver restaurant. And I was shadowing one of the waiters at the time, and the table I served happened to be my future employers.
Oh,
So
wow.
this is, oh God, is too good. But
Oh, my word.
so I stepped in, I served them. I know the ins and outs, so I know how to like read the situation, do above and beyond from a waitress perspective. And then I managed to get the job that night, and I left to go home, and I took a different route to what I'd usually take. And in Canary Wharf, I don't know if you're familiar, but in the summer they do a lot of like stalls, bar stalls, food
Yes.
stalls, and so forth.
Yes.
So the grass area in which I walked through, I came across 3 of the members that were on the table that I'd previously served. So as I went past, to be courteous and polite, I was like, "Hi, you're right." And they like recognized me. They're like, "Oh, you're the girl from the restaurant, blah, blah, blah." So we got talking. And then they were like, "There's something about you." And these are Mancunians, never met them in my life. And they were like, "There's something about you, like you'll fit in really well with what we do. Have you ever worked with lifts?" And I'm like, "Lifts? What do you mean lifts? I just get in a lift. I don't know nothing about lifts." And, and then they started to explain that they are the installation team for Mitsubishi in
Oh,
lift
wow.
engineering. Yeah, so literally from that night of getting a job at Jamie Oliver, as much as I was successful, I also got offered a job by these people that I just met like in the restaurant on my trial shift. And within 2 months, they created the position for me. The position didn't even exist. We had a conversation, they connected with me, and they were like, "We want to offer you a job." And within 2 months, they'd drawn me up a contract. They'd been in contact with me, and I was now a trainee commercial manager in construction. Never stepped into the field before, no qualifications,
Oh,
nothing.
my God.
Yeah,
That is nuts. Excuse my French again.
no
That is
worries.
crazy. So
Mm,
you're now a trainee commercial manager. You know, you're out on site. I know what Mitsubishi's like because you got Connie, Mitsubishi, you got
yeah,
Otis, you got
yeah,
all of these little
yeah,
Schindlers.
yeah. Schindler, yeah,
It's all coming
yeah.
out now, isn't it? So, you know, but when did you acquire your referee badge? You know, when?
Listen, no one would believe I'm 26, the amount of stories I got to tell for it, but
Well, this is all about you. We've got time to tell it.
oh, bless you. So I was in construction for 18 months, and as I'd said, I had no form of qualification. I was on a trainee course, so when I was offered a job in my pre-contract, they stated £6,000 would go into training and so forth within the first year. Within the first year, I didn't receive anything apart from the application for my CSCS, which I needed to get on site anyway. And then they also put me forward for the triple STS as well, but no other construction related qualifications. So because in the first probably couple of weeks, I recuperated nearly 30 grand for the company in contra charges and extra works, despite not having done anything like that before and so forth. So they decided that they wanted to make me a supervisor for a site. But the thing is, they probably perceived me, and I don't like to throw the discrimination card, but they probably thought, "Oh yeah, she's a little black girl, rough around the edges, like she can handle herself, but she don't know nothing." But little did they know, I come from an educated family. So they were trying to ginnels me, excuse my language, for those that don't know ginnels, they were trying to take the mick out of me. And yeah, so they put me on a site for a 6-month period on a site as the supervisor, but I was having to sign off works, Lolas, hoists, all these things that I'd never engaged with myself. I was doing client liaison, making sure they were on time with the program, reporting extra works, all these different things which I just took in my stride. However, there was one incident whereby where we installed a lift, so it's a shaft, can be anything up to 50, 60, whatever floors. one of my engineers stepped out of the lift and a big chunk of concrete dropped from the 10th floor and literally missed his head by about that much.
I was going
Now,
to say, please tell me that it missed him, right?
yeah, it just missed him, thank God. But if it had gone the other way, I was on paper, despite no qualifications, the most senior member of staff. All responsibility fell on me. And for those that don't know, in construction, if you're found responsible for anything, you can face up to 2 years imprisonment
That's
under
correct.
the HSC and so forth.
NHBC would have been on you.
On me differently. So when that happened now, it sort of like woke me up again. And I started to research into like the criteria of the role I was doing, all the ins and outs, and so forth. And I actually raised concern with my employers, stating that as much as I'm eager to learn and I'm happy that they've entrusted me in such a position, it's beyond my remit. And I'm going to require some form of training to be able to do my job to the best of my ability.
Well done.
As you probably know, being in construction yourself, the construction industry is a very corrupt industry and
Oh,
very money orientated
oh
industry.
my God.
So I went backwards and forwards with my employer for 2 months of emails stating that I need some form of training. I'm a trainee commercial manager. Train me in commercial management. I don't, as much as I need to know the lift industry, I am not a supervisor. I'm a trainee commercial manager. So that is more of a
So you were used, basically.
sorry?
You were used.
Exactly.
You
I
were
was
used.
used as a guinea pig, a scapegoat, and so forth. And the more I started to speak to like project managers and so forth, not exposing what was going on, but indirectly showing them what was going on. And in doing so, every email I sent to these people, they just diverted around what I was saying. Everything was disregarded. And then it came across like they put it back to me like, oh, Lexi, like you're asking for too much, blah, blah, blah. You don't need this, you'll learn this and so forth. But it was black and white. When it comes to health and safety, there's no questions. You have to do
Absolutely.
things in a particular order.
Absolutely.
And they weren't listening. So off of the back of it, a couple of weeks later, they turned around and said to me, unfortunately, the site is coming to an end. We have no other sites available for you. Therefore, we'll have to dismiss you by the end of the month. That's it, gone.
They knew what they were doing.
Of course, they knew what they were doing.
They knew what they were
They
doing, but you
knew
weren't.
what they were
Yeah,
doing.
they knew what they were doing. There was a means to a purpose to save money. They
Yeah.
didn't take any form of health and safety into consideration. It
Mm-hmm.
was, we're going to float by this. This is what we need to do. Unfortunately, it's luckily for you that the client who they were working for wasn't aware of the legalities or the illegalities that were going
Mm-hmm.
on. And
Yeah,
that's why they were to get away with it.
100%. They made 200% profit on me in 6 months.
That's what's happened.
So yeah, and even down to like the engineers, I won't go too much into it, but everything they were double charging what they were paying people. So yeah, so off the back of that, leading to the answer to your question, apologies. So
That's okay.
yeah, I was sacked from my job. I was in a bad place again, and again I reached out to the Lord, and then I was in other sort of construction jobs, but the same sort of thing kept arising. And then within a week of leaving my job, my FA level one course was available. I got selected for, it's called 100 FC, where they give 100 women throughout the year an opportunity to obtain their coaching badges free of
Oh,
charge.
wow.
So that happened within a week of leaving my job. Then the referee thing came up as well. And then, yeah, like lockdown. So this was, what I'm talking about now was the beginning of 2020 when I left my job. So Mitsubishi was 2018, but I had other construction jobs, and then I left that one because again they were trying to take the mick out of me.
Yeah.
Yeah, within a week, my coaching come up, my refereeing came up, and then lockdown kicked in, and then lockdown was very difficult. The first one, especially. My mum can definitely vouch for that. I was bouncing off the walls in the sense of just losing it. I'm a very active social person. I network. My life, my progression in life has solely happened through God and networking. And then this led into where we are getting to now. So I don't know if you want to ask me a question or if you want to just
I do.
go
So
ahead.
we've come into lockdown, and you just said it. You're bouncing around and you're bouncing around, and I don't know how you managed to meet Michael, because you're now working as a youth advocate.
Yes.
How did you bounce into that? Because, the Lord hasn't put you anywhere that that you can't handle. You know that, right?
Definitely.
How did you bounce into that? We're now in 2020. You've now qualified. You've got your FA badge, but you can't do anything because football's shut down. You're now you're an FA coach. You can't do anything. Football's shut down. Take me to the next part of this journey, working with the children.
Okay, so through lockdown, again, prayer and so forth, I was recommended to. So I went to a football training session. I tried to get back into football, just like playing for fun and so forth. And this is how it is. On my coaching course, I met some Spanish ladies that train up in Stockwell. So I attended 2 sessions and I met their coach. Didn't really have too much to say to him, just normal conversation, maybe gave him a little bit of what I do or trying to do, but nothing too in depth. And then about a month or 2 down the line, I received a call from a lady that runs an organization called Goals for Girls. And basically, I had been recommended for a position that they had going as a sessional football coach. Alongside that, I attended something called Wholeness Academy, and which is run by a lady called Jacqueline Peer, Apostle Jacqueline Peer. And a lady I met on the course, she was a mentor for a company called Precious Moments and Health Limited, of which she also recommended me for the role, and I got the role. So that's 2 roles that I got through different avenues, trying to find myself again. And then how I met Michael, I attended the 2020 protests, where I came into contact with 2 police officers. And I was speaking. I don't really talk to the police, not in any such a way, but it's just not really my thing. But 2 police officers, I have to commend them because they were so down to earth, and they even gave me a different perspective in the sense of people in a uniform. Behind the uniform, there's people. And
That's correct. That's absolutely correct.
And I think through obviously my earlier stages in life, being around certain people, there was such a negative stigma given towards the police. So as much as I hadn't had any encounters myself, I'd sort of picked up on the same stigmas. However, I spoke to these police officers out of the blue, and one of them happened to play football, and we got talking about football, and then she invited me to some football thing, and then she was like, "Oh, I know a guy called Michael, put me in contact with Michael." And then me and Michael were on the phone, and it just blossomed from there. Like
It's fantastic.
It's so I can't even. I'm trying to put in words my journey, but it's supernatural. I can only say
You're articulating it beautifully. Please continue.
Oh,
It's
thank
beautiful.
you, thank you. But no word of a lie. I can only give all the glory to God, and apologies for anyone that's not religious or spiritual that's tuning in. But I'm standing in my truth right now, and I have to give all praise to the Most High, because what has happened to me in my
I've got tears
journey,
in my eyes. Sorry. Yeah, go
uh,
on.
what has happened to me in my journey, um, it can't be written. It couldn't have been written. And I think, as I said, now I sit where I sit. Now I stand where I stand. Now I understand where I'm at. Everything I've been through, the good, the bad, the ugly, the legit, the illegit, in all of it, my heart has been pure. In all of it, I've only had good intentions. And I used to beat myself up, because, especially coming from the generation that I'm in, a lot of people, um, that we were easily led into things that are not of us. Like, a lot of the things I got into was not my portion, but only now it makes sense. As I said, you have to go through the dark to see the light. And if I
Right.
didn't get involved, witness half of the things I did, I would not to be able to stand here today and educate the children that are going through twice as much right now, and speak it with passion and understanding, because I've been through it. I've lived it. I've seen it in the flesh, live. And yeah, so now I work for about 3, 4 different companies. I mentor individual students, autistic kids. I work with kids with
You're doing
mental
all of
health.
this.
Sorry.
It's like you, again, it's people recognize the beauty of you, and you're now working as, with children, you know.
Yeah.
Did you ever envisage yourself doing that? And I want you to come back to that. I just want people to
Yeah.
understand that, you've done all these different things, and here you are working now with children to turn their lives around.
Yeah, I think only now, again, because I know what I've been through, and I know what avenues I had to go through to get to where I am now. It's like, I didn't have a vision for children, like, but God had a vision for me with children. I used to walk in the flesh. I used to walk chasing money, as I said. I wanted, things of the flesh, things of man. But when God has a plan and a purpose, and I'm sorry to ramble on about God, but that's
Do not
the
apologize for what you feel and how your faith is. Never.
thank you. Thank you. But literally, it's been shaped. It was already written. And as I said, everything I went through was to get me to where I am today. And with my understanding now, my maturity and so forth, I can weigh everything up, I can balance everything up. And I'm still of an age where kids look at me and can see themselves. I can differentiate the way I speak, whether it be corporate, whether it be to the youth, them, whether it be on the roads, whether it be in front of the Queen. Like, I can switch it up, and that is all part of my journey. My journey has got me to where I am now, and boy, I'm just ready for what God's got in store for me, because I've only
And
just
there's more.
started, and I've
Yeah,
me
there's
I got
more.
I got
What
a
is it
generation.
what are you instilling? Because you're telling your story, and this is why, again, it for me, I'm just so proud to have you on this show. I swear. Your
Thank you.
purpose, you have been through a lot, and you the beauty of it is that you didn't feel that you needed to go degrading what the things that you've seen, but
Hmm.
what you are is imparting knowledge to, children who have probably a mental, ability disabilities, or just needing love in their life. You are bringing that to them in the work that you're doing right now. Kick
Yeah.
off at 3, which a lot of people don't really know about, because you're an
Hmm.
ambassador. You've now become an ambassador for them too.
Yeah.
All of that is incorporated. What are the things that you are instilling, is my next question.
So me, I am instilling being, hence the reason on the show as well. The title couldn't be any better. But standing in your truth, I feel like in this life we're put in boxes, whether it be your race, your gender, your ethnicity, your social status. And me, I'm an anomaly. I do not fit into any box. I've always had people tell me I should be there, I should be here, I should be doing that, I should be doing that. But all I've done is stay true to myself and keep it real with Lord. Even when I speak to God, when I pray, I talk to God, I'm like, yo, God, big man, please. Like, sometimes I have to talk to him like, yo, big man, please,
I
man, I
love it.
need you.
You're
Like,
big man.
help me out. Help me out. Like, come on.
I
No,
love
but
it.
on a serious note, I'm just here to, I feel like a lot of the youth today are going through an identity crisis. And when I lost football, I felt I was, only now I understand that I was probably going through the same thing. But I had to lose myself to find myself. And now I found myself. I want to help other people find themselves without, or giving them the support or mechanisms to not have to go through half of the things I went through in order to do so.
And with saying all of that, it's not like you've apologized so many times for the beauty of your faith. Everyone has faith, even if it's just faith in the universe,
Mhm.
Islam, even if they're atheists. People think
Yeah.
that, being an atheist is something you believe in. You've got to believe in something, whether it be yourself.
Yeah.
And so, what I'm saying to you is this. I'm sure when you're showing everybody or teaching, you are not forcing your faith on these children. You're teaching them life. Am I
Yeah.
correct?
Most definitely. I think when it comes to professionalism, obviously there's fine lines within the sectors I'm in, especially like education and so forth. So I don't tend to really speak on my faith or beliefs unless a student brings that same dynamic to me. However, as you said, everyone has faith in something, and the faith has to start with yourself. And I feel like a lot of the kids that I work with, they don't even have that faith within themselves. They don't have the confidence. I work with kids from as young as 12 that talk about suicide. Like, you haven't even started your life yet. How can you feel suicidal? But then it's not how can you, because until you walk in someone's shoes, you don't know. And everyone tends to look at the exterior, but people fail to understand it depends where you come from. Do these young kids have parents? Do these young kids eat every day? Do these young kids have money to go to school? Are these young kids getting bullied in school and so forth? So once you can teach someone or help someone understand themselves, and I think that's what happened with me. I had to understand myself. I had to find myself and own my wrongs, own my rights, love myself despite what has gone on, whether it worked or not, and have that faith to be able to now walk in my purpose.
Man, you're 26 years old, right?
I am, yes.
Lexi, I don't know many male or females that could actually put their hand in their heart and speak as eloquent, deeply, and know themselves as you have done today.
Thank
It
you.
resonated. It has resonated so deeply, and your honesty is just boundless. I just have to say that, and I'm hoping that whoever watches this on YouTube, because you've had some beautiful comments here in the chat room. You probably can't see them.
I can
This
see
is
them. A
oh,
lot of
you
them is my
can. Oh,
family. A lot of
awesome.
them is my family. I'm not gonna lie. Big up
Right.
my family or the chat. Everyone.
Beautiful. Beautiful. At the end of the day, I am speechless, and that's something that never happens.
Wow.
It's the beauty of everything that you've said, the children that you're teaching. Because please, without having to break any confidentiality, what sort of children are you teaching? So I just want people to get a rounded idea of the challenges that you are dealing with when you are trying to instill some form of normality.
Most definitely. Okay, so I work with children that are from deprived areas as one. I work with children with mental health. I work with children that are autistic. I work with children that are victims or witnesses of domestic violence. I work with children that have self-harmed, special educational and mental health needs. and just misunderstood. And I think one thing as well, a lot of these children, some do receive support, some others don't, but a lot of the support comes from such a rigid structure, such a textbook way of teaching. But I come from the real, I come from the emotion, I come from the passion. Like, I do it because I've done it. I do it because I love it. I do it because I feel it. And it's not for the money. Like, I'll tell you right now, even if I didn't get paid, I'll still do what I do, because we as beings have purpose to provide for our next beings. And I don't have children yet, but the younger generation I perceive as my children in a sense. Like, I have a responsibility as a adult that's come up through a lot of the stick to share and prevent a lot of these youngsters from going through. And I think the thing that resonates with me the most is the young women. I feel like the young ladies of today, especially, do we have role models out there? If we do have role models, do we see them? Especially young, again, not to take it to certain categories, but young Black women. What young Black role models do we have out there? Like, I've got girls in my classes tell me they don't like their skin, they don't like their hair. Like, these are things. We're living in London, such a multicultural society, but we're still facing racism in 2021. It makes no sense. But what I see is a narrative. They're pushing a narrative to divide us as a people. They're pushing a narrative to confuse the youngsters. They speak more about, and please, I haven't got anything against it, but they
Oh,
speak
please say
more
it.
about LGBT and all these things that kids are not even aware of, in a sense, before they speak of loving yourself. Everyone is equal. Black, white, Asian, yellow, purple, green. Like, we are humans before all of these demographics. And I just want to teach people, you only have one life. You only have one you. You are different to the next man, to the next woman, and so forth. And I have been able to elevate and proceed in being different. And I love it. No one can tell me nothing, like, not on a bossy or anything like that, but respectfully, no one can tell me nothing, because no one's walked in my shoes. No one knows me. But having heard my journey today, and that's probably even a fragment of of everything I've been through. So, yeah.
It really is a fragment. It is a fragment. It's like there's little bits of here and little bits of there, and I really don't care that, whatever time we started. It's take me to how you. Someone has just said you're a really great role model for the children you work with. God bless you. Thank you, MD Media.
Thank
I
you.
wanted to also bring this up. We're going to go back just a little bit. So you work with the children, but you still have a personal journey of heartache for yourself, or heartache
Yeah.
for yourself, which is you still are rehabilitating in terms of your own body. It's
Yeah.
taken you a while. In your own pain,
Mm-hmm.
you are here helping other people.
Mm-hmm.
You said something to me the other day, and I'm hoping, if you don't mind, you don't have to share it.
No, go
But,
ahead. Go ahead.
you said something the other day that, in all the time you're trying to find and we're going to come back also to the grassroots of football and all that,
Okay.
that all the time that you have been out there looking for the help, you got the support from your mother, but you finally found someone that realized the pain you were still going through for the injuries that you've had. Could you just elaborate a little bit more about that, if you don't mind sharing that?
Oh, most definitely. This man deserves all the glory and what I'm about to share. So, going back to the supernatural encounters and connections that were made, firstly through Michael, I featured on a webinar or a Zoom call to young police cadets and youngsters and so forth. Again, just sharing my story. And there was a man on there called Errol, company, Gel-Up Promotions. Go check them out, based in Tottenham. He's a youth worker, and deals with the youth community within Tottenham, and sharing my story, and just how I was left to my own devices and so forth, and still 10 years down the line, not fully rehabilitated the initial injury that I underwent. He felt my story, and on the call, he said, Michael, I got a question. And he said, you know what? Lexi, there's something about you. I felt everything you said, and I want to offer you your healing. Errol has, out of his own pocket, paid for my rehab. 10 years down the line, I can finally say every Saturday for the last 2 weeks, and I think it will go on to who knows when, but I go to Hackney, and I'm seen by a senior physiotherapist that is helping me on the road to recovery. So Errol, honestly, my heart, you hold such a special space, and just thank you, as well as Michael, of course, that initiated the connection between us. So again, God is good, and He's a man of God as
Oh
well. I
my
must say, He's a man of God too.
God.
And Valerie, even the conversation we had, and every conversation I have, it's not normal. It's not like me and you. We never met. The first conversation. How long was we on the phone for? We was on the phone for a good 45
A
minutes.
long time. Whee!
We
Lord,
was
oh
over
my
time.
God, sorry.
So yeah, that definitely. God is good.
Imagine, God is good. The pain, people don't, if you don't believe in something, it's easy to drop off. It's easy to go back to something that you're not, because it feels good. That comfort zone, when
Yes.
you step out of that comfort zone, and you're not praying to the universe, you're not praying to no God. You just have to have that someone said, as Natasha just said, that self-healing. You were here, you were put there, that self-healing in itself to serve is to heal. But
Amen.
even though there's days, I'm sure that you get dark days where you think that, my God, the devil is trying to be stronger than God. Or even if you're not even thinking of God as a purpose, it's like, I'm about to give in.
Yeah.
But the beauty is, I don't know Errol, but you were meant to meet Errol. And I think that Michael has become this catalyst. And I
Definitely
said this
so.
to Michael today. I had a conversation with him. And, I don't know if he's watching. He's probably at work right now. And those who don't know, I've had Michael Wallace, who is a police officer. He's come on the show, and he's just the most enigmatic man that can talk you out of anything. He could talk you into anything, because that's just how good he is. He's a great mediator. And this man literally just introduces people, but he goes by energy and the feel good. He doesn't just put people together because he thinks that you should. The people that he has around is good people.
Indeed.
And he wants to see the youths to stop fighting. So we're not gonna try and bring that, because we're here to change the narrative.
Yeah.
No matter what's happening out there, the youths that are killing, or it's about a positive narrative, that there's people like yourself out there that's trying to make change, who are trying to change the narrative, to let them know that you just don't give up on yourself.
Indeed. Yeah.
One more thing I'm going to ask you is this. What would you change within women and men's football? Because you spoke about youngsters and earlier on there were some messages saying there's not enough support,
Yeah.
because there are a lot of ex-footballers, male and female, who,
Yeah.
like yourself, was ceremoniously dumped with nowhere to go, no one to turn to. What is that message, or you think should be put into place?
Okay, so again, everything that's happened has led on. So touching on my refereeing, I'll take my referee badge, and I volunteered to play linesman for a game. It was a men's game, a cup game, first game I'd ever refereed, but it was local to my house, quick £30 for an hour and a half. I was like, yeah, of course, I'll do that. So I went down there, and it was a YouTube team. And funnily enough, one of the teams, I knew a lot of people that played for them. Anyway, fast forward, long story short, one of the guys that was videoing the game, he then got speaking to me and was like, "Oh, how'd you get into refereeing XYZ?" And then he invited me to his podcast. So big up Alpha Barry. That's the first platform I was on, One Take Media. I did a podcast and we spoke on the death of a young man called Jeremy Winston, who was a Man City academy player and was released. And he sadly took
That's
his
right.
own life off of the
Yes.
back of it.
Awful, awful,
that-
awful.
Most definitely. So that was the first podcast platform I had, which led on to a lot of other things. But again, in answer to your question, there's a lot of stuff that I'm working on. There's people working on. But with regards to support, I just feel like the clubs need to take responsibility. At the end of the day, if these young academy players make first team and are scoring a lot of goals or playing their position or performing very well within the team, you're going to take all credit for it. You're going to take the credit that comes with it. We did that. I believe it's the responsibility of the club, not necessarily to hold on to the player, but between all the clubs out there, there needs to be a support system, whether it's a grassroots support system, whether it's a professional academy or whatever. There needs to be a support system in place because it's just becoming too apparent. It's happening too often. We shouldn't have 17-year-olds, 18-year-olds killing themselves because they're released from a football academy. As well as that, I feel like they need to enhance the educational side, in the sense of, okay, how many players make it from academies to professional first team players? Not many. That is obvious. A lot of people know it. So why not put in place other avenues for the kids to go on, whether it's a physiotherapist, find out what the children enjoy, find out what other elements of the game. Another thing, once I went through everything I went through, is only probably when I got into my 20s that I began to realize that there's other sectors within the footballing world. There's commentating, there's refereeing, there's coaching, there's physiotherapy. There's so much that they can teach or offer. And if the club can't do it themselves, they're sponsored by how many people, they've got partnerships with how many different people. Extend those arms. I feel from you can represent a club no matter what stage you are part of that club. You have played a role within that club. So it's of their duty to now have a role in your life if it doesn't go the way in which you expected it to pan out. So
I hope they see this, and I will be highlighting this. I hope they, sorry to cut you, I didn't mean to cut you there. I hope they see this, and I will be making sure this section is definitely highlighted and over every social media that I have, and kept, literally just keep, because, you and I, we both love football. We're football enthusiasts. Well, not just football, I like boxing too. Maybe I
I don't mind a bit of boxing.
Yeah. You know what? If it was left, if there was nobody else and we couldn't see the chat room, it would be just me and Lexi and I having a good old chat and banter. But I said to her before we started, I'm going to behave myself and be professional. But I'm coming to the end, and I'm hoping I have captured you in the spirit of when we first spoke. I hope that through this interview, you felt that you have shared your story and you've said all the things that you want to say, that you feel that this, again, when anyone watches this back, will touch their lives. It will touch their lives for their children. It would touch their lives as a human being, as a person, to want a direction. If they're feeling low and they don't know where to go, listen to Lexi, because it doesn't matter if you didn't have an injury. You could have lost your house, but it's staying focused. It's never giving up on yourself. That's the message I have taken away for myself from you, which, as I said, it just brought a tear to my eye, because in the lockdown that we are in right now, everyone is finding it tough.
Yeah.
Everyone, no one is exempt. And I'm sure you're finding that with the parents, for the children that you teach, for the
Yeah.
children that are coming to you who are finding it very hard themselves. We're now dealing with, all of a sudden, the word safeguarding, country line is the more biggest word that is coming out of lockdown. You
Yeah.
know, well-being has now become a thing of the past. It's now
Indeed.
safeguarding. My
Yeah.
God, you know, safeguarding the future. You've not, as you said, you've got no children yet, you know,
Yeah.
and here we are, people who have been molested, and or another thing, I think, I'm sure I was saying to somebody else, and if this is the final parting words, which was, and I'm terrible, because I tend to have a lot of things going on and I digress,
Okay.
was we, a lot of our trauma, and I'm sure you would agree, comes from things that's happened from our past growing up.
Definitely.
And we never seem to address them then. It takes something to happen to trigger. And even if that incident, whether someone slap you, you hurt your foot, it triggers that trauma. And you
Indeed.
find that's the trauma you're suffering from and not the actual injury. Does that make sense?
Not 100%. 100%. Um,
And that's with children too, don't you think?
yeah. I see it every day. I see it every day. Whether it be a bereavement, whether it be just home or whatever. A lot of people don't express themselves and they hold on to things, which, as you said, is a trauma in itself. Hold it, not letting go of the past. And I had to um, I had to own my past, but at the same time let go and realize the past will never change. But as long as I have a present, I can change the future.
I'm bowing. Lexi, it has been a pleasure to have you on here today. I'm sending a lot of love to your mum. I don't know her, but thank you, Mama, for having such a wonderful daughter.
Oh, blessings.
And I'm hoping that when we're out of lockdown, I will see you at the kickoff at 3. I think they're having something in June. So
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to catching up with you in person to give you the biggest elbow hugs, as best as possible. I hope that we can have you on again later on in the year to see where you are in terms of the therapy that you're having. Hey, Mom, I know you're there, and your
Mom, come
brother,
say hi.
your brother.
Come.
And
Smells you
so
there. Come say
it,
hi.
come on then, please, Mom.
She
I'm
said,
sure
come
you
say
look
hi.
great.
Come put your head in.
Hi. Oh, you beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
Absolutely beautiful.
She's doing the run up. Valerie, just before I
Yes,
go, can I quickly share a poem that I wrote in
I would
2020?
love you to. Please do.
Okay, so hold on, I've got it up here. All right, so the poem was, I did a presentation because the same job I spoke about, which I was recommended for in what I'm doing now, one of the schools rejected me because of my DBS. I got, whereas I spoke about some of the trouble I got into, as much as I was made, I was a guinea pig, I took the repercussions of what took place. So in order to justify myself in a sense, I wrote this poem in 2020, and I think it resonated with a lot of people. But it's called "Who Am I?" and it goes, "Who am I, or who are we in this life? Are we allowed to be a conditioned world that claims we're free? But what is free if I cannot be me? Young, naive, and no support, I once was led astray. I faced the judge, paid the price, though still get judged today. The offences that were listed paint a poor and vivid story. Although it's not the full truth, I am well and truly sorry. Far from perfect, I have made a few mistakes, tried to right my wrongs, but still can't catch a break. I have learned a lot of lessons, enhanced in wisdom too, but if a DBS defines me, what more can I do? I am a true representation of what also G for G is the company I work for. So I'm a true representation of what G for G express. The only difference being I've come up through the mess. From social barriers to glass ceilings, I've experienced it all. Despite numerous injustice faced, I remain standing tall. So allow me to be an example, a message to the youth, a narrative for a generation searching for the truth. The past cannot be changed, however the future can. I'm a role model, an advocate, a lion, not a lamb.
Wow.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Lexi, can I ask, has that been published?
It hasn't. It hasn't.
You really need to publish that poem.
You
And
think
I know
so?
I said earlier that I was going to have that section earlier. This section where you have just read that poem will be the highlight that will be sitting on the YouTube page going forward. Lexi, you need to get it published. And Natasha, I know you're going to kill me for doing this. I always seem to do this when someone comes in that blows me away. But there is a couple of publishers that we are privy to. And Natasha, I know you're in the chat room somewhere. If you can, my phone has died, but I'm going to text you when the show is over. And even if she's left, I'm going to text her. Natasha Vigil runs Black Wall Street London 2020 as a platform for artists, creative people with books, shoes, you name it, for an Afrocentric entrepreneurs. And on this platform, there are a few publishers. I'm also in touch with another publisher. And if you don't mind, I would like to share that to them.
Feel
It's not a
free.
promise of whatever might come out of it. But I would like that poem. And I'm only going to keep that poem up for about a week or two, because the best thing is for people to actually hear it, and then it comes down, and for you to then have it published. If there's anything that I think that should come out of today, is that she's here, right here, already reached out to Lexi via Michael.
Oh yeah, we did meet. I forgot to say hi, Natasha.
Right.
Just want to say too.
Please tell me that you're going on to Tasha's platform. She's got the wonderful 24-hour platform. She's just messaged me on here. Sorry, Tash, my phone has died. Thank you to everyone in the chat room. We are going to make this happen, because I'm sure there's more poetry that you can write, and this needs to be heard. And if there's anything that I think I would do in my life today, is to make this happen. This has to happen. Natasha just says she's on it. She knows exactly who I'm talking about. So I'm hoping, not yet, but I hope we can connect at some time. So Natasha is, I don't need to speak for Natasha. I don't need to, but she's been in here and she's been lit up by you today. She's a fabulous woman who's just got the most amazing platform, and she's one woman that can connect to you. So she's going to do a connection, and I'm going to do a connection, and let's just hope that somewhere we can get that poetry published. The poem that Lexi has just read out will only be up, that section will only be up for a week.
Okay.
Because we want it published.
Amen. Thank you so much.
It's no point having it up there because no one's going to buy it. So let's get it published. And if you want, I will do that highlight just for you, so you can attach it to your publishing of when you first read it. And thank you for sharing. I'm honored. I'm not going to lie. I am honored to have you on Standing in My Truth.
Thank you for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure. Like, I felt so comfortable, and just thank you to everyone that tuned in. My family, love always, you already know. And yeah, just a quick shout. Michael, of course, Kickoff at 3. Follow Michael. He's part founder of everything I'm being able to do. Errol again, Gel Up Promotions. Yeah, and guys, big up Valerie though, like standing in my truth. I'm not the first and I'm sure I won't be the last, but I already said to Valerie, she's got a truth that we need to hear the standing in the truth of the standing the truth, you know what I'm saying? But honestly, no, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you.
I'm just here to just let people speak, and that standing in my truth is just, it's all about just bringing voices to the table. It's not glorified. It's not, oh, let's get likes. It's for other people, as I said right at the beginning of the show, to share wonderful people doing wonderful things out there that we never get the chance to hear. And as I said, if one person can shine a light to make someone else's life better, then my job is done. And
Amen.
and for me, I've walked away today learning something, that I'm a grown bottom woman. I won't say grown ass woman, but I'm a grown woman who has been humblified today. And I thank you for that. To everyone in the chat room, family, and there's other people in there, to Siobhan. As I said, my phone died. I had messages on there, and I can't even talk about them because it's three different platforms. So you got YouTube, which is where everybody is here. Then I've got Facebook, and then I've got another Facebook, and you're on Mixcloud. So I'm getting all different messages that you can only see. To everybody from, I think it's Lamar and D Dubs, and there's a few more in there, and Natasha and Tony and everybody, all of you wonderful people, and to everyone that tunes in and after and catching this show, thank you for watching. Big up to Natasha, who's going to do everything that I'm hoping you're going to do, that Tash, that I'm asking to do. Lexi, absolute pleasure. And I'm going to keep you in the green room while I say good night to everybody. If you could just hang tight. Lovely to have you. Please say bye to everybody while you're here.
Again, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope I can my story resonates with some of you, and yeah, let's spread the love together and have a great evening. God bless.
This is my hands for all the deaf people. Yeah, this is, happy hands. Call it happy hands. God bless you. God bless you. God bless you. Sit tight. Oh my God. Oh, I hate when I have a show and I get really teared up because, and I'm a soppy old cow, but I don't care. It was well worth being soppy about. Lexi was truly and wonderfully amazing. Natasha just says, I'm taking notes and have been educated in the righteous way. That is the message that we've taken today. Everybody, to everyone, as I said, in the chat room, to the messages that I've received, all of that love goes to Lexi, and I'm sure she can still hear the show. All of that love goes to you. Thank you for sharing your love with us. I know that on a Thursday night, I can sleep well, and I've made notes that apply, as well as Natasha, to ourselves. Tune in again tomorrow, completely different show. But I'm not even going to bother about what the show is tomorrow. Let's end it on this wonderful note. Love yourself. Positivity always conquers all. And have faith. If it's not in the Lord, have faith in the universe, but believe in something. Do not hate anyone who has faith. Do not be upset that they have a faith in God. They're getting by, is my message. Everyone is getting by with some form of faith. And with that, thank you. Thank you all for tuning in. Have a positive evening, a positive weekend that's coming up. Stay strong and stand in your truth. Good night. God bless.